After knocking every enemy to the ground, Yuki the demon spreads his wings with pride, confidence radiating as he surveys the destruction. Smirking, he congratulates himself, sure he's crushed them all single-handedly. At this rate, he should start charging rent for how often they hit the floor. He begins to reflect on his past. Once he was a human named Segawa Yuki, living a regular life, but fate had something unexpected in store. In his new life, he's no longer human. He's been reborn as a demon, with a horn protruding from his forehead and dark wings extending from his back. A clear sign that he is now something more. Internally happy to say goodbye to taxes and hello to horns, something far from ordinary. This rebirth hasn't just changed his form. It has granted him cheat-like powers that far surpass normal limits. He thinks being a demon has better perks than his old job. As he looks down at the fallen bodies, he recognizes the members of the hero party, and the place where he stands is no ordinary location. This is the midpoint of the demon castle, where he stands as the appointed mid-boss under the demon lord, holding his ground. He muses over what to do with these battered heroes. He knows that until the hero party defeats the demon lord, peace will never return to the world. But if they ever manage to defeat the mid-boss, that is him, it would send shockwaves through the realm. Yuki, however, finds that kind of chaos amusing. Deciding what to do, he decides to heal and send them away, not out of mercy, but as a demonstration of power, something that will surely earn him praise from the higher-ranking demons. He imagined that this would send a message, preferably one written in all caps and flames. To understand how the hero party ended up like this, one must rewind the battle. It all began with Yuga, the hero, charging in with his lightning sword. But Yuki easily overwhelms him using a minor magic spell. Then comes Mikana, the ever-loyal mage who clings to the hero at all times. She barely lasts a moment before being taken out by a single blast. After that, the swordman of the group steps in, an overly confident, cool guy type. Yuki finds his attitude irritating and uses black magic to render him invisible, leaving him lost and unable to be found by his own party. And just like that, the cool guy became the missing guy. Finally, the mage and hero are struck down together by Yuki's advanced spells. The last to approach is Siccilia, the stunning beauty of the group. Yuki, without hesitation, knocks her out with a backhanded strike. Her body collapses to the ground, yet somehow remains uninjured. Yuki notes that she doesn't even require healing. As he stands over her, he's taken aback by her appearance. Her beauty is dazzling, even in unconsciousness. He raises an eyebrow, thinking, why do the pretty ones always have to be so dramatic? For a brief moment, he considers keeping her as a war prisoner. But he knows the demon lord would be furious, and even Yuki has a line he hesitates to cross. With a sigh, he orders his cursed soldiers to carry the entire party and dump them in the nearby village. 3 days later, as expected, the hero party regains its strength and returns to the castle to issue another challenge. Once again, they come face to face with Yuki. Amused, he lets out a devilish laugh, mocking them for daring to return. He declares that he'll send them all straight to hell, but internally muses that if the hero party has some kind of magnetic power, or just his gravitational force. Yuga, burning with determination, calls out Yuki by name and tells him to prepare for battle. Yuki spreads his wings wide, ready to launch forward, until his eyes catch Siccilia standing among them. She's glaring at him with a fiery intensity, and for the first time, Yuki feels a shift. He frowns, wondering if she is angry, or just constipated. Hard to tell with humans. Something in her gaze is different this time, and it might just change everything. Yuki treats the fight like a game, leaping and flipping through the air as if performing in a demon circus. Hero Yuga shouts at him to stop fooling around, but Yuki barely listens, his focus fixed on the girl. Then, without warning, he unleashes overwhelming power, casting the highest level of dark magic. The spell crashes down like a storm, flattening the entire party. Even Siccilia isn't spared. Stepping closer to inspect the aftermath, Yuki silently hopes that Siccilia managed to raise her barrier in time. With a satisfied grin, he once again emerges victorious, having crushed the hero's party for a second time. And just like before, he uses his magic to heal them and sends them off to the nearby village, perhaps out of routine now. He sighs that at this point, he must charge a resurrection fee for the heal, dump, repeat process. A month passes. They return once more, only to be repelled again. This cycle repeats so often that even the demon lord and the high-ranking demons begin to consider the hero's party weak and unworthy of mention. But Yuki knows the truth. He understands that if he weren't standing in their path, the hero's party might have already reached the demon lord and ended it all. It's he, the so-called mid-boss, who's actually keeping the world's fate in balance. With that thought, he makes a decision. Next time, he'll let them pass. And perhaps, just perhaps, his beautiful crush, Siccilia, is not only outwardly stunning, but also has a wonderful personality within. A few days later, the party's mage turns to Yuga and tells him that it's finally time to get rid of this boring demon. From here, Yuki overhears and finally learns her name, telling him he is not boring as he moisturizes with the blood of his enemies. His eyes land on the cool-looking swordsman of the group, who once again stands in silence, his icy expression unchanged. Yuki finds the guy's aura annoying, but then his gaze falls on Siccilia, and in his mind she glows like an angel. Thinking that if looks could kill, she'd be more dangerous than he is, and as usual, Yuki starts repeating the same old mid-boss lines, mocking the heroes with practiced evil flair. Before he can finish, Yuga interrupts his evil monologue moment speech and rushes at him again. But Yuki knows none of them can overcome his cheat-level abilities. Calmly, he calls out to the hero and declares that no matter how hard they try, they can never defeat him. Still, Yuga insists that he must fight, for the sake of the people who suffer in this world. Then, with a grin, Yuki makes them an offer to just leave the pretty one here, and they can keep the cool guy, as he hasn't said a single word in 3 months. And with this deal, he'll let the other 3 pass. His words freeze the entire party in shock. The mage covers her mouth to stop a sudden laugh, thinking that he's simping in 4K. The hero is visibly displeased by the suggestion, refusing to agree. But Yuki warns them not to waste this opportunity, or else he'll defeat them again and toss them back to the village. The mage nudges Yuga, telling him to consider the offer. She admits that even if Yuki's face is boring, his power is no joke, and ultimately, they're doing this to save the world. Yuga, however, remains stubborn. She keeps trying, pleading, convincing, attempting every angle to change his mind. Eventually, he gives in. They decide to leave Siccilia behind. Yuki steps aside, letting the remaining 3 pass. As they leave, Yuga promises Siccilia that he'll return for her. And now, finally, it's just Yuki and Siccilia left alone. For the first time, Yuki starts to feel nervous. But before he can settle into the moment, Siccilia charges toward him. Though she's alone, she shows no fear, ready to fight. Startled, Yuki raises his hand, signaling for a timeout, trying to calm her down. But Siccilia keeps her aggressive stance. She demands to know if he plans to bully her before killing her. Yuki quickly explains that he has no intention of harming her. Instead, he admits something unexpected. He's felt love for her since the first moment he saw her. He confesses that he wants to take her out. Siccilia is stunned into silence. All she can do is stare at him, and then, after a brief pause, she bows her head in rejection. Yuki drops to his knees, his head hung low, feeling the sting of her refusal. This makes him feel that he guesses he really is the mid-boss. Even in romance, he never gets to be the final choice. In that moment, Siccilia begins casting a spell over him. But he doesn't resist. She notices and asks why he isn't fighting back. She also warns him not to mess with her. Hearing this, Yuki chuckles inwardly. Even in her mad mode, she looks adorable to him. Then he opens up again, telling her he doesn't want to stay in this place forever. He's tired of constantly attacking people. Deep down, he doesn't enjoy harming humans. Hearing this, Siccilia lifts one eyebrow in surprise. Yuki assures her that, believe it or not, he was once a basic salaryman. Now he is a winged disaster with a skincare routine made of shadow magic. Siccilia finds his story strange, almost unbelievable. But then, Yuki stretches out his hand and asks her a question. If he claims to be a friend of humans, would she believe him? Siccilia questions Yuki's logic. If he truly wants to change, why doesn't he defeat the Demon Lord himself? He just jokingly said that if he defeats the Demon Lord, he will next open a bakery and start a cupcake empire. Then he shudders, saying that if he beat him, he'd just become the next guy in charge. And she has to trust him. He is not filling out all those demonic HR forms. That's why he created the recent opportunity to finally confess his feelings to her. Besides, he firmly believes that the rest of the hero's party is strong enough to handle the Demon Lord on their own. Everything will work out. But Siccilia walks closer and tells him otherwise. Things will never be right this way. She wants him to use his demon powers to help humans instead. She urges him to change his form, to become more human-like, to blend into their world. Yuki blinks, asking for fewer horns, more hugs. Reaching her hand out to him, she tells him he should come with her into the outside world. And so, not long after, the Demon Lord is defeated, and peace is restored across the land. Now the scene shifts to the capital city, Minerva. The streets are bursting with celebration. News of the demon lord's fall spreads like wildfire. The people rejoice and even hold parades in honor of the hero's party. Meanwhile, Yuki arrives in Minerva thanks to the map Siccilia handed him after their journey. Despite the tales the hero's party shared, claiming that the mid-boss demon Yuki had been banished by the demon lord, allowing them to win, Yuki now walks through the city streets in a transformed human form. He enters an adventurer's guild and announces his intent to register. He walks in, expecting a warm welcome. Instead, he gets the receptionist, Kramen, sitting nearby, looks up at him, and scoffs at the timing, asking that it's parade day, and who dares comes to register now? The man is a local guild staff member. He grumbles about how short-staffed they are due to the celebrations and starts searching for the proper registration form, muttering odd, scattered thoughts all the while. Eventually, he slides the form toward Yuki, asking to write his name, age, emergency contact if he gets eaten, and sign to agree that the guild won't be responsible for his death. Yuki nods and complies. Clayman then gives him a quick briefing. Yuki must take his duties seriously and not lose his guild card. If he does, and no staff is around in the next 3 days to reissue it, he'll be forced to search for it himself, because this is not a lost and found service unless he is willing to pay in tears. Yuki can't help but think this guy truly despises his job. There should be a limit to laziness. Kramen repeats the warning with more force, clearly not willing to help should anything go wrong. Yuki picks up on just how much Kramen hates his workload. Still, that day, Yuki accepts several requests, and by evening, hands in all his earnings to the guild. As he walks out, he reflects on the path ahead. From now on, he plans to raise his rank, save money, and one day confess to Siccilia again, with real confidence. The thought excites him so much that he imagines even his pillow whispering good night to him. A week passes. In that time, Yuki works so diligently that he climbs from rank F to D. With each completed task, he returns to Clayman to turn in his rewards, much to Clayman's annoyance. Curious, he asks if Yuki gets sleep, or just he giving a 24/7 live service, to which he says sometimes he power naps with his eyes open. Eventually, Clayman snaps, pointing out that there are other staff members, especially ladies, who can handle his requests, so he must flirt with them like a normal adventurer, please. But Yuki replies earnestly that he's gotten used to dealing with Clayman. Hearing this, he begins to panic in frustration, claiming that Yuki's persistence is increasing his own workload. Yuki starts to wonder if Clayman will break under pressure, but the man surprisingly handles everything quite well. Trying to encourage him, Yuki suggests that he shouldn't be so frustrated with his job. Clayman answers dryly, revealing that he isn't even the official receptionist. He's only doing this because of the parade shortage. Then, just as Clayman vents his frustration, a familiar voice cuts through the guild's noise. Someone nearby is asking for directions. The footsteps approach, and both men look up. Clayman's thoughts freeze. Why would Siccilia, the hero party's priestess, be here? At the same moment, Yuki's cheeks flush pink as he catches sight of her, and his brain immediately files for emotional overtime. Siccilia offers Yuki a ride, and together they head toward her mansion. On the way, she apologizes for being late due to the ongoing celebration, but Yuki waves it off, assuring her that he spent the time enjoying things on his own, mostly by pretending not to be lost. He also compliments her for finding him so quickly, to which she admits that at first, she wasn't sure she'd be able to locate him at all. She had no idea where he might be wandering. Frankly, she expected to find him passed out next to a food stall or arguing with a cat, but things turned out to be easier than expected. Noticing her troubled expression, he asks if something's wrong. She explains that she still hasn't changed her name or appearance, and everyone from the hero party would recognize her instantly. In response, he considers adding that he did it with kitchen scissors, but decides to keep some mystery alive, and he dramatically shares how he broke off his demon horn and clipped his wings to alter his appearance, suffering all the pain just to become someone unnoticeable. They soon arrive at the mansion, as announced by the coachman. When Yuki steps out, he finds the mansion far bigger than he imagined, but before he can admire it properly, the guards stop them at the gate. Onlookers begin whispering, wondering who the man with Siccilia-sama might be. Judging by the stares, the crowd seems convinced he either owes her money or kidnapped her. Yuki notices the suspicious glances people have been giving him ever since he left the guild. Siccilia steps forward and informs the guards that Yuki is a close friend, which finally allows them inside. Still, he can't shake the feeling that people don't think he belongs by Sicilia's side. They sit facing each other in one of the rooms. Siccilia makes a request. She asks if Yuki can leave the guild. The question shocks him, especially since he just finished making all his plans. He was emotionally invested in climbing to rank A just to brag during awkward silences. Curious, he asks her why. Siccilia tells him she'll explain, but he must listen quietly. She reveals that although the Demon King has been defeated, the remaining demons are still a danger. Yuki immediately understands. Defeating one king doesn't erase the threat of the rest. Something is surely brewing among them, and people still live in fear. Siccilia continues, explaining that demons are still seen as a threat by the public. After the fall of the Demon King, many countries are arming themselves and recruiting talented individuals. Even the hero is now swamped with engagement offers from noble families and princesses. Yuki had expected that much, but he's surprised when Siccilia says it's happening to every member of the hero's party. He panics and moves closer, asking if she has received proposals too. She calmly tells him that she's declined them all. She doesn't want Yuki to become famous either, fearing other nations might try to recruit him. That's why she wants him to leave the guild and work for her personally. He raises a practical concern. Can she even afford someone like him? Siccilia admits that Yuki's strength rivals an S-rank adventurer, and she definitely can't afford him. Still, she awkwardly fidgets with her clothes and shyly confesses that she knows about his feelings for her. This flusters Yuki, and he quickly asks her to stop. He admits that while he wants to earn her love, it shouldn't be under such circumstances. He tells her that he used to cheat, and the assassins from other nations won't be a match for him, but even so, he refuses to fall into temptation. For him, there's only Siccilia. He's aiming for romance, not a suspiciously convenient employee benefits package. Then he realizes he might be overacting. She bursts into laughter and apologizes, saying she couldn't hold it in. Yuki wonders what was so funny about what he said. She clarifies that it's not his words that made her laugh, but she now believes that he used to be human, because no demon could possibly be this funny. As if laughter were a weapon, Yuki suspects she's been holding a secret S rank all along. Her tone shifts as she quietly says she only wanted to double-check that he's still the same Yuki. She excuses herself, saying she has somewhere to be, but mentions she enjoyed their time together and wants to meet again. Yuki agrees, and just before she leaves, he asks something hesitantly. Siccilia is surprised, but then smiles when he requests to call her by her first name. She agrees, and from that moment, they start addressing each other more casually. They part ways, both feeling happy. Back home, Yuki hugs his pillow in excitement, thinking about how they've gotten closer. His pillow has never known this much affection, and frankly, it's getting suspicious, and he's already looking forward to seeing her again. The next day, Yuki heads to Sicilia's mansion, feeling cheerful and confident that the day will be great, but when he arrives at the gate, the same guards block him, explaining that a hero party meeting is in progress. At this point, he wonders if the guards are secretly competing to see who can block him most often, as he has nothing to do with the hero, but he still needs to fulfill his promise. With no other option, he heads into town. There, he notices a large crowd gathering, chanting the name of a swordsman. His first thought is that it must be a limited-time sale or a celebrity on fire. But curious when he approaches and finds that the person in question is none other than Raven, a member of the hero's party. The moment he recognizes him, Yuki also sees that Raven looks like he's in trouble. To help, Yuki shouts that the hero is arriving from the other side, causing the crowd to run in that direction. That's one way to clear a crowd. He might try it next time he's stuck in line at the bakery. Raven takes the chance to escape, and Yuki pulls him into a nearby alley. Raven remains silent, keeping his usual cool attitude, which makes Yuki think he's still trying hard to stay mysterious. As they walk away, Yuki casually reminds Raven to stay undercover next time. Suddenly, Raven speaks, and Yuki freezes in shock. His soul briefly leaves his body. It returns only to file a noise complaint. The voice is completely unexpected, anime-like and surprisingly soft. He's stunned that someone so handsome and cool could sound like that. He now understands why Raven doesn't talk much. Trying to comfort him, Yuki assures Raven that everyone has something they'd rather keep hidden. Raven asks if Yuki will laugh at his voice. Yuki promises he won't and adds that it's not Raven's fault, because he's too busy mentally rebooting from the voice reveal. Raven admits that people usually mock him because of it. It becomes clear that Raven has gone through a lot due to how he sounds. Yuki tells him that he's met many people like him, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. Feeling more relaxed, Raven thanks him, but as Yuki turns to leave, Raven grabs his arm and asks if he'd like to be friends. Yuki malfunctions from the surprise, his brain blue screens, and he starts smiling like a broken clock and making a weird expression. Raven clarifies that he just wants someone other than his cousin and mother who won't laugh at him. Finally snapping out of it, Yuki introduces himself and offers a handshake. They become friends, and Yuki thinks that after 20 years of rebirth, he's finally made his first real friend. While chatting, Raven mentions that he's sure he's seen Yuki somewhere before. Yuki just laughs it off. The next morning, Yuki eats breakfast at the Adventurer Guild, thinking the food is a bit plain and tastes like cardboard with ambitions, but it's still cheaper than therapy, hoping a quest will show up before he finishes. Suddenly, a beautiful woman sits beside him and compliments his meal. While still chewing, Yuki wonders who she is and why she's suddenly here. The woman explains that her daughter told her about Yuki, saying he seems quite interesting. She then introduces herself as Siccilia Aquarain, Sicilia's mother. Hearing this, Yuki nearly chokes, quickly finishes his meal, and hurriedly greets her properly. Somewhere deep inside, Yuki's organs file for emergency evacuation. He sits nervously across from Siccilia, unsure why she's come to see him, silently wondering if she can read minds through eye contact. She tells him to relax, he's already interesting enough, and explains she's here to apologize for her guard's rude behavior. But Yuki reassures her there's no need. Thanks to that incident, he met someone new. Sicilia's eyes narrow with suspicion. She reminds him that he's supposed to love her daughter, so who's this someone? Yuki, flustered, clarifies that it's just a boy and they're only friends, and mentally waves his hands like a man defusing a bomb, with no instructions. Sicilia's expression softens, and she apologizes again for doubting him. He tells her it's all right. She suddenly invites him to come along. Confused, he follows, and she hints that he might want to meet her daughter. He eagerly agrees. At the mansion gate, Yuki notices the rude guards are gone. Siccilia explains they were replaced, and her maid, an ex-A-rank adventurer, handled it. Yuki is surprised that someone so powerful is now a maid, as he mentally adds, "Don't upset the maid," to his growing list of survival tips. Siccilia adds that the maid is terrifying, except around her husband, whom she once injured badly during a fight. Still, she lovingly cared for him the whole time. At the entrance, the maid, Sophia, greets them politely. She smiles politely, the way a thunderstorm might smile before ruining your whole week. Yuki finds her calm until she casually asks Siccilia how many bones to break this time. He instantly regrets thinking she looked gentle and silently wishes the former guards good luck. Sophia begins showing Yuki the mansion. Outside one room, Siccilia calls her daughter. Inside, Siccilia is surprised to see them. Yuki's soul tries to leave through his shoes after seeing her appearance in sleepwear. It hits him like an unguarded magic attack. He's certain this is Sicilia's setup. Siccilia tells her daughter to forgive Yuki. It wasn't a big deal. Yuki then asks why she brought him here. Siccilia admits she overheard their earlier conversation and liked what she heard. Yuki wishes he could disappear from embarrassment and silently wonders if this entire mansion runs on surprises. Getting serious, Siccilia mentions that Siccilia is receiving marriage proposals, one from the hero himself. Yuki is furious. Siccilia says Siccilia already rejected the hero, but it seems he still has feelings. Yuki begins ranting, wondering why the hero is ruining his love life when he already has a witch beside him. Honestly, if this were a play, the hero would be the villain with great PR. Siccilia tells him that if he truly loves her daughter, he needs to prove it. Yuki agrees. She then asks if he'll marry Siccilia. Shocked, Yuki realizes this is his chance, but he bows his head and apologizes. He wants to become a better man first before he's worthy of Siccilia. Siccilia suddenly declares that this is enough. He's passed. She says she won't give her daughter to any of the other suitors and warns that it would be awful if a bug like him got too close. But she encourages him to focus on becoming someone worthy. And in that moment, Yuki understands Siccilia has just given him a quiet approval. Yuki almost tears up, then remembers real men cry only when their rice burns. Yuki is sent to Orsal Forest for his current guild task. With consistent hard work, he has managed to reach C rank, and ever since learning that the hero has feelings for Siccilia, he's been pushing himself even harder. He hopes to close the gap between them, both in status and in distance. While on his mission, he suddenly spots a cursed soldier, one who used to serve directly under him during the Demon Era. Alarmed, Yuki swiftly appears in front of one of the soldiers. To his surprise, the soldier instantly recognizes him, and to Yuki's greater shock, it turns out to be Duke, his most trusted soldier from the castle. Duke grabs Yuki in panic and demands to know where he had disappeared to, explaining how worried everyone has been since the Demon King's defeat. Yuki has expected a fight, but instead gets a reunion hug that cracks his back. He says that Yuki's other former comrades are also nearby, Duke guiding him a bit further ahead, where more familiar faces appear. As they walk ahead, Yuki is welcomed warmly by two others, Harpy Hapines and Pixie Schick, who, along with Duke, were his loyal subordinates. They throw themselves at him with emotional hugs, saying how much they missed him. Yuki is squeezed like a stress ball, wondering if demons always hug this hard. After the king's defeat, they had escaped the hero's party and found refuge here, hiding away. Duke even cries while recalling the time he spent sobbing under Captain's command, like he's auditioning for a tragic romance. Schick gives him a 6 out of 10. Hapines teases him while Duke tries to shush her. Yuki, touched, realizes they were all deeply concerned about him and cared genuinely. As they calm down, they curiously ask about his missing wings and horn. Yuki quietly admits that he broke them off. The group goes silent, stunned by the confession. A moment later, they all begin yelling, demanding to know why he'd do such a thing, while Schick dramatically collapses to the ground, laughing uncontrollably like someone just told the best bad joke in the underworld. Yuki, inwardly unsure how to explain the situation, finally tells them he confessed his love to a beautiful girl from the hero's party, and that now he lives as a human. Another round of silence follows. Then Duke breaks down in tears again, devastated that their demon captain fell in love with a human. Hapines finds it disgusting, but Yuki makes it clear that he's no longer their captain, just a regular human. He tells them they're free to live as they please. However, Duke refuses to let go, saying that a captain is always a captain, and the others agree wholeheartedly. Curious, the three of them begin bombarding Yuki with questions about the human girl. Yuki's face turns red. He's suddenly surrounded by gossip-hungry demons, and they want to meet the one their captain has fallen for. Flustered, Yuki yells back, asking if they've all gone dumb. He then informs them that he's on a quest to hunt down a cockatrice. Before he can even finish his sentence, Happiness enthusiastically responds and vanishes for a few seconds, only to return with a pile of defeated cockatrices. She innocently asks if they can come with him now. Yuki sighs and tells them they can't go with him looking like that. If they walk into the city in their current forms, they'll definitely be captured. He insists they need to look like normal humans. As he imagines what their human appearances should look like, Duke promptly slams a helmet onto his head and tightens it securely. Schick, with his tiny wings tucked inside his clothes, easily passes for human. But Hapines, being a harpy, is more difficult. Her arms are fully covered in feathers. Eventually, Yuki decides to pluck her feathers off, leaving Hapines with slight regret. It's like giving a bird a bad haircut, with emotional damage. With their disguises set, the group heads to the guild office. Yuki submits his completed quest, and when the claimant asks if the trio is with him, he denies it faster than a criminal at trial. After wrapping up, he takes his disguised companions to Sicilia's mansion. As soon as they arrive, she scolds him loudly. Apparently, Hapines told her everything about how Yuki forcibly plucked her features. Siccilia embraces him tightly, rebuking his actions. She insists that while wanting to become more human is fine, this is not the way. Yuki silently regrets his decision. Siccilia, looking over at the trio, guesses they must be Yuki's subordinates and notes how much they seem to like him. At that moment, the three jumped on their captain, confirming her theory. Yuki explains that Duke was never like this before. He used to be quiet and reserved, but Duke defends himself, saying it's only because he didn't like Yuki back then. Besides, their captain used to be a big deal in the demon castle. Siccilia is intrigued by this, and Duke, growing excited, begins revealing Yuki's strange habits, like never stepping outside his room, even when their squad leader Ezekiel insisted. All the while, Yuki desperately tries to silence him. Duke talks like a traitor with a podcast. As Duke spills one embarrassing story after another, Siccilia bursts into laughter. Yuki proudly states that Duke was his first subordinate and feels he has completely brainwashed him by now. When he turns to introduce the other two, he realizes they've disappeared. He panics and starts searching for them. Though they appear human, there's still danger if they're exposed. Outside, he finds Sophia holding Hapines by the arm and calmly explaining housework. Hapines listens silently, head lowered. Yuki rushes in and says Hapines is just a friend, not the new maid Sophia was expecting. She explains that since a new maid was supposed to arrive today, she mistook Hapines for her. Next, Yuki searches for Schick. Passing by Cilia's room, he spots Schick lying peacefully in her lap. Cilia pats his head affectionately, saying how lovely he is. Yuki's worries ease seeing this. However, Siccilia eyes him suspiciously and asks who the girl behind him is. He says it's just a friend, though it now seems like Siccilia has more trust issues than Siccilia herself. He hopes Sick hasn't troubled her, but Siccilia assures him she loves children, so it's no problem. By evening, Yuki tells the trio that if they now believe everything is fine, they should consider returning. As expected, all three insist on staying with him, and so Yuki begins a new chapter, living alongside his old subordinates in his new human life. But this story is far from over. As the next day, Yuki's headache intensifies the moment he steps into Hapin's room. What he sees shocks him. Sophia has dressed Hapines in a maid uniform and officially hired her as part of the household staff. Hapines, surprisingly, looks quite charming in the outfit. Yuki tries to compliment her, but his brain short-circuits halfway. Not long after, he arrives at Sicilia's mansion. Curious, he asks about the reason for being summoned. Siccilia explains that after receiving multiple approvals and overworking herself, Siccilia has grown exhausted. She wants Yuki to take her daughter out for a relaxing break, a shopping trip to help her unwind. At first, Yuki doesn't fully understand what Siccilia means, but as she clarifies further and he realizes it's a kind of mother-approved date, he instantly agrees. Siccilia, smiling, tells him she already knew what his answer would be and has a carriage prepared in advance. She urges him to hurry since her daughter is already waiting outside. Yuki dashes off with such urgency that Sophia yells after him, "The carriage is that way? Genius." As he steps outside, Yuki is momentarily stunned. Siccilia looks different, more polished and striking than her usual self. Yuki internally screams loud enough to startle any nearby spirits, but he apologizes for keeping her waiting. She calmly says they should get going. Before they leave, Siccilia puts Yuki in disguise, telling him it's necessary to avoid public recognition. He agrees and wishes for a peaceful day off. He doesn't realize until later that the disguise makes him look like a suspicious traveling potato vendor. The two spend the whole day shopping. Siccilia later shares how much she enjoyed herself and how relaxed she feels. While walking, Yuki spots an accessory store and suggests they check it out. Just behind them, someone watches the pair in shock. It's none other than Hiro Yuga. He can't believe his eyes as he sees Siccilia and begins calling out to her, but Makana quickly silences him. She doesn't want to draw attention or cause a crowd. Understanding the situation, Yuga approaches Siccilia and asks what she's doing here, especially when all party members agree to take a break. He suggests they all go out together as she wants to relax. However, Siccilia firmly says she's already out with a friend. Still ignoring Yuki entirely, Yuga insists on joining them. Before he can say more, Yuga grabs Sicilia's arm and leads her inside the store, while Makana and Yuki stay outside in disbelief. Mentally writing a report titled 101 Ways to Ruin a Date, Yuga Edition. Makana fumes as she watches. She confesses that today was supposed to be her date with the hero, and she had finally gathered the courage to ask him out. She clearly doesn't appreciate him choosing Siccilia instead. Yuki, observing her reaction, concludes that she must really like the hero. When he asks her directly, she avoids the question and instead asks whether he's also on a date with Siccilia. She advises him to do his best so that the hero forgets about Siccilia. As she walks off, Yuki chases after her. With dramatic flair, he tells her that neither of them wants their partner to be alone with someone else. They should both return to their companions. Inside the store, Yuki rejoins Siccilia. She begins showing him items she likes, while Yuga suddenly announces that he'll buy gifts for both Siccilia and Makana. Yuki wonders if he's walked into a discount dating show sponsored by poor decision-making. Yuki watches in silence, wondering if this has turned into some kind of competition. Everyone seems intent on gifting Siccilia something. When he picks up an item, Siccilia compliments his taste. Meanwhile, Yuga selects a necklace and urges Siccilia to try it. In doing so, he removes her hat and glasses, instantly revealing her identity. Makana and Yuki yell at him, shocked by his recklessness. With her face now exposed, the surrounding crowd begins to gather, recognizing her immediately. People begin hounding them, all yelling at Yuga for his stupidity. Somehow, the group manages to escape the area. After the chaos, Yuki tells Siccilia they should just return home. He's frustrated. Yuga has completely ruined their day. The next day, Yuki returns to Siccilia, who doesn't look particularly pleased. She informs him that Siccilia is feeling unwell. Alarmed, Yuki asks what happened. Siccilia explains that while Siccilia is resting, she likely pushed herself too hard yesterday. Hearing this, Yuki blames himself and sinks into guilt. but Siccilia reassures him. There's no need to feel so down, after all, she was the one who encouraged the date. As for the hero, he did return today to invite Siccilia out again, but Siccilia promptly turned him away. Smiling, Siccilia says she's satisfied with Yuki. She'll call on him again next time. Before he leaves, she allows him to visit Siccilia. Inside her room, Yuki quietly apologizes. Siccilia assures him it wasn't his fault, but then, with a sudden shift, she blames him for ruining her day off. She demands he make it up to her by taking her on another outing. Yuki freezes, unsure if this is divine punishment or romantic progress. Possibly both. Overwhelmed with emotion, he shouts that he'll take full care of everything next time. Just then, Sophia barges in and kicks him out of the room, scolding him for making noise when Siccilia is sick. A few days later, Yuki meets Siccilia again and finds her fully recovered. She returns to her duties at the guild, while Yuki stands in the guild office with Clayman, who excitedly shares that his wife is in an unusually good mood today. Yuki silently wonders what strange ritual Clayman performed to achieve such a miracle, and internally questions how he ended up in such a strange place, and without warning, his thoughts drift to Siccilia. He imagines what life would be like if he married her, convinced they'd both be happy together. Just then, Clayman notices someone entering the guild office. It's Raven, who silently walks up to Yuki and gestures for him to come outside. Yuki briefly wonders if this is a dramatic modern kidnapping attempt. Without a word, he turns and leaves. Yuki immediately understands the reason behind Raven's silence and quickly asks Clayman to assign them a quest they can complete together. Clayman hands him a B-ranked quest while Raven quietly listens nearby. Soon after, both of them set off in a carriage. During the ride, Yuki cautiously asks if Raven doesn't actually want to do a quest with him. Raven nods in agreement, prompting Yuki to apologize for the misunderstanding. He realizes Raven simply wants to hang out. It seems both sweet and mildly terrifying that Raven treats social bonding like a classified mission. Raven admits that this is his first quest with a friend, and it makes him happy. To cheer him up further, Yuki promises they'll finish the quest quickly and have dinner together, which brings a smile to Raven's face. It's like finding a rare weapon drop in a dungeon. They arrive at a dense forest and begin working on their mission. As they move forward, Raven suddenly says he has something important to discuss after the quest. Yuki, catching a hint of ominous energy in the air, gets a bad feeling. At that moment, a dragon suddenly ambushed them from behind. Yuki internally sighs. Of course it's a dragon. It's never just a squirrel. Both immediately go on alert. Yuki knows defeating it will take more than brute strength. He'll need to use his Storm Blow spell. With precision, Yuki launches the spell and weakens the dragon, then manipulates his demon power to restrict the creature's movement and drag it toward Raven. He unleashes his special skill, slamming the dragon into the ground. The two manage to defeat it together. Raven remarks that the rest of the cleanup can be handled by guild staff. Both are quietly impressed by each other's abilities, and Yuki silently thanks his former demon mid-boss Era for turning flashy overkill into a valid strategy. After completing the quest, they conceal their identities and head to a nearby restaurant. While eating, Yuki brings up Raven's earlier mention of wanting to talk. Raven hesitates, but Yuki reassures him that he can share anything with him. Finally, Raven confesses he's fallen in love with someone. The admission freezes Yuki in place, thinking love confession quests weren't part of the mission outline. Raven explains he trusts only Yuki enough to say it. When Yuki asks who it is, Raven shares that the girl never mocks him, and once told him she's jealous of his voice. Now he wants to confess his feelings to her, but he lacks the confidence. Yuki feels sympathy. Despite Raiden being part of the hero's party and having a pretty face, he realizes Raiden's voice issue is a true barrier in his communication. Overcome with emotion, Yuki slams his hand on the table and tells Raven he doesn't yet fully understand his own worth. Listening to this, everyone else in the restaurant jumps. One waiter drops a tray. A cat bolts from under a table. With intensity, Yuki shouts that anyone who makes fun of Raiden's voice isn't worth his time, because Raven is a member of the hero's party, someone who helped save the world. He shares his own experience and urges Raven to have the same confidence. He tells him to go and confess his feelings. Raven is moved by his words and admits he's probably overthinking everything. He promises to confess the next day and even invites Yuki to come along. But then Raiden begins trembling. Concerned, Yuki looks at him and reassures him gently, reminding him to believe in himself. He's a knight commander and a member of the hero's party. Raven listens quietly and then walks home, with Yuki staying by his side. boosting his courage with every step. The very next day, Raven takes Yuki along with him and leads him straight to Sicilia's mansion. The moment Yuki sees where they've arrived, the color drains from his face. Raven, full of sincerity, tells him that it was because of his encouragement that he found the courage to come here, and now he intends to confess. Yuki, struck with panic, begins to wonder if he has accidentally encouraged Raven to confess to Siccilia. The thought unsettles him deeply. It feels like he handed someone a map labeled romance, and they drove straight into a volcano. Moments later, Raven walks out of the mansion looking defeated and gloomy. He informs Yuki that she rejected him instantly, calling it impossible. Despite the pain, Raven thanks Yuki for the courage and quietly walks away. He starts questioning reality. Did Raven go to the wrong house? Or worse, the wrong girl? Yuki now feels a twinge of guilt, realizing this might have been Raven's first heartbreak. With concern, he decides to talk to Siccilia. When he approaches her, she immediately clears up the misunderstanding. Raven never came to see her. Shocked, Yuki tries to explain the entire situation, and Siccilia suggests they speak to Sofia. Upon asking her, they learn that Raven had indeed come by, but requested to meet a maid named Hapines, who recently joined them. Both Siccilia and Yuki are stunned by this revelation. Yuki wastes no time and goes to find Hapines. He directly asks her if a handsome, red-haired young man came to confess to her, and what she replied. She simply answers, "Impossible." When asked if she had met him before, she avoids explaining and repeats the word again before fleeing the scene. She runs so fast, Yuki suspects she may have wind magic and social anxiety combined. Yuki, now even more confused, begins to suspect there's more to this story. He gathers Siccilia and Duke together and explains that he's called them to discuss the situation between Raven and Hapines. Duke, hearing this, claims he knows more about Hapines than they realize. He explains that, as everyone knows, harpies are often hunted due to their beauty and feathers. Hapines, too, was once being chased by men when Duke saved her from them. He reveals that this is why, whenever a man confesses to her, Hapines feels no joy. It reminds her of trauma. As they continue to discuss Raven's intentions, Yuki wonders why Hapines would ever say she was jealous of Raven. Duke guesses that it could be because Hapines loves singing, and Raven's deep voice might be something she admires. In the end, Yuki decides he needs to hear the full story from Raven's side too, and resolves to visit his house before returning home. At Raven's place, he finds the Knight Commander lying in bed, emotionally drained. Raven apologizes, blaming himself for failing even after Yuki encouraged him. Yuki, however, asks what kind of connection he has with the girl he tried to confess to. Surprised by the question, Raven hesitates, but Yuki tells him that he shouldn't give up so easily. Raven drops into full storytelling mode, complete with dramatic pauses. One night, while patrolling, he hears a commotion. Some thugs are harassing Hapines. As they surround her, Raven rushes in and slams his sword on the ground to draw attention. Their leader tells Raven to walk away, but he stands firm and defeats all of them alone. One of the thugs recognizes Raven and whispers to his boss that he's the Knight Commander of the hero party. Realizing they're outmatched, the gang flees. Raven, relieved, mutters "savages" and quickly covers his mouth in embarrassment. But Hapines, hearing his voice, simply responds with "nice." It's the weirdest cold compliment Raven's ever gotten. Then she walks away after saying a few odd words. Voice, jealous, thanks, goodbye. Raven is left speechless. After hearing this, Yuki drags Raven out of the house. Now that everything makes sense, he tells him the truth. Hapines was the one who showed interest first. He brings Raven to Duke and tells him that Duke is Hapines' friend. Duke adds that Hapines has trauma specifically tied to men, not all humans. This finally clears up the confusion. She is comfortable with Sofia and Siccilia because they're women. When Raven admits he had no idea, Duke mocks him slightly. Tension rises and the two pull out their swords in a standoff. Yuki quickly steps in to stop them and advises Raven to first try becoming Hapines' friend and gradually learn more about her. Following this, Duke and Raven shake hands, forming an unexpected new friendship. Later, Raven musters up the courage to meet Hapines again. When he approaches her, he holds his breath like he's proposing marriage. His voice trembles as he asks if she would like to be friends. Hapines pauses, thinks for a moment, and replies with a simple "okay." She agrees like she's accepting free snacks. Watching nearby, Yuki and Siccilia celebrate quietly, congratulating each other with relief and joy. Yuki knows that Siccilia had a big role in convincing Hapines, and on the other side, Duke officially welcomes Raven into his Knight squad, showing no concern for his voice. In the end, the only ones left behind are Yuki and Shik. As usual, he continues causing mischief, and Yuki, completely fed up, ends up calling Hapines and Duke back to deal with him. The next day, Yuki, Siccilia, and Sik ride together in a carriage headed for a village called Dagas. Shik is visibly excited. This is his first time riding in a carriage, and he seems to be enjoying every second of it, like a kid on his first trip. It's his first carriage ride, and he's acting like he just discovered air. They're heading there partly because Siccilia has some priestess work to do, and Yuki decides to help her out. Upon hearing this, Sik eagerly insists on tagging along as well. Siccilia feels glad to have their company, and the presence of the two lightens her mood. Even Sik appears genuinely happy to be included. As they arrive in Dagas, the cheerful atmosphere shifts. The village is so quiet, Sik whispers, that did they miss a zombie apocalypse or something? The village looks like it's been struck by disaster. Homes damaged, streets quiet, and the people worn with worry. A village elder approaches Siccilia, filled with hope. She listens with a heavy heart as he explains that the village was attacked by mountain bandits. Her expression turns grim. She introduces Yuki and Sik to the elder, saying they'd come to help. Yuki tries to look serious, but Sik ruins the moment by whispering, "Do I look heroic enough?" The elder gratefully welcomes them and puts them to work. As they assist the villagers, Yuki starts noticing how exhausted Siccilia has become. She insists she's fine, but it's clear she's close to collapsing. Yuki can't stand to watch her push herself further, so he quietly casts a spell that makes her fall asleep on the spot. The villagers around them assume she passed out from fatigue, but Yuki explains she just needs some rest and asks for a bedroom. Once he gets the location, he carries Siccilia there and leaves her to rest while he and Shik handle the remaining tasks. After some time, she wakes up feeling refreshed. Seeing her looking better, Yuki feels relieved and admits that he used magic to help her sleep. Siccilia, instead of being upset, thanks him warmly for caring about her so much. Yuki finds her expression unusually endearing, a little too cute for him to ignore. While they're standing outside, a villager approaches them and suggests they visit a girl named Teal, who has always been physically weak. Siccilia immediately agrees and asks for directions. They're told she lives on the east side of the village. When they arrive, Teal sees them and asks who they are. She can tell they aren't from the village. Her words are cut short by a fit of coughing. Siccilia rushes to her side and apologizes, while Sik quickly opens his medical kit and hands her a potion. Sik awkwardly bows to Teal, forgets he's holding a potion, and ends up dumping it on his own foot. But thanks to his kit, he has one more. The moment she drinks it, her coughing stops. Shik looks relieved and says it's a good thing she wasn't in the village during the bandit attack. But Teal corrects him. She says that she wasn't saved by luck, she was protected by a guardian deity. Yuki doesn't quite understand what she means, so Teal elaborates that her grandmother used to tell her about a protective spirit. She brings daily offerings to the temple in its honor, and that day was no different. She had gone as usual but suddenly fell into a drowsy state, and that's how she avoided the attack. Shik suspects that the drowsiness might be some sort of magical nightmare curse, but Yuki points out that if it were dark magic, it would cause nightmares, not just sleep. The group becomes curious and asks Teal where they can find this so-called guardian deity. Teal, sensing their doubt, offers to take them to the temple herself. As they enter the old temple, they expect to see something divine, but are surprised to find a statue that looks nothing like a holy figure. It's shaped more like a demon than a deity. Teal notices their reaction and grows defensive, saying they shouldn't insult her guardian. Siccilia steps in gently to calm her down. Meanwhile, Yuki leans over to Shik and quietly tells him that whatever this thing is, it's definitely not a deity. It looks more like a trap monster from the Demon Lord's castle. Suddenly, the statue begins to move. Without warning, it launches an attack toward Yuki. He dodges and shouts to the others that this isn't a guardian deity. It's a demon, a gargoyle in disguise. He turns back to look for Shik, only to realize he's vanished in fear. But in a surprising twist, he comes flying down from above. He yells justice mid-air even though no one asked for it. With dramatic flair, he delivers a powerful flying kick straight to the demon's face, knocking it down in a single strike. As the gargoyle crashes to the ground, Shik beams with pride and announces his victory, then eagerly asks what they should do next. As soon as Yuki tries to talk to the demon, the creature suddenly shouts, declaring that if they'd come to kill him, then they should just do it already. Shik immediately gets excited at the challenge, ready to fight, but Yuki holds him back. He wants to hear the demon's full story first. The demon seems surprised by this and apologizes for attacking earlier, admitting that he only did so because he feared they might reveal his true identity. When Yuki asks how the demon became the village's guardian deity, the demon finally begins to trust him. He explains that he was originally created to protect some ancient ruins, but since there wasn't much to do, he ended up sleeping most of the time. Shik can't help laughing, comparing the demon to his own captain, who does exactly the same. The demon continues, explaining that one day, while dozing, a group of bandits kidnapped him. Shik bursts into laughter again, saying that the demon got kidnapped while sleeping. He is worse than a wallet. The demon shrugs off the insult and tells them how he eventually punished the bandits once he realized what had happened. But after that, he lost his way and ended up in this temple. Since then, whenever bandits attack the village, he steps in to protect the people. Grateful for his protection, the villagers started worshipping him as a guardian deity. Yuki still sees him as just an ordinary monster, but doesn't sense any threat. The demon shares that there's one girl in particular who visits him regularly, Teal. Despite her weak body, she comes daily to clean the temple. He knew that an attack was likely on the day she fainted, so he cast a spell to protect her. When Yuki suspiciously asks if the demon has any intentions toward the girl, the demon gets flustered and insists it was only a protective nightmare spell, without any nightmares in it. Now curious, the demon wants to hear Yuki's story. Upon listening, the demon starts laughing loudly, amused by how similar their lives are. Yuki, slightly embarrassed, tries to regain dignity by calling the demon a lost child, teasing him. Despite all this, they both understand that the demon never harmed the village, so they see no reason to confront him further and decide to head back. They return to the village where Siccilia is taking care of Teal. She asks what they found, and they tell her everything about the demon. Siccilia realizes that the supposed guardian deity is, in fact, a demon who's lived silently for over 100 years without hurting anyone. As they discuss this, Shik grows bored and hungry. Yuki gives him some money, telling him to grab food while the rest keep talking. They agree that the demon doesn't seem dangerous, but the village still needs a defense plan for future attacks. Siccilia agrees, knowing that the villagers' well-being is top priority. That night, after tucking Teal into bed, they step outside. The moonlight feels oddly romantic to Yuki, but when Siccilia questions the look on his face, he says nothing and internally calls himself a coward for staying silent. The next day, they focus on healing the villagers. However, Yuki becomes irritated when he sees all the young women lined up in front of Shik, who is now somehow extremely popular. Meanwhile, Yuki is left treating the elderly group, but he takes comfort in the fact that they give the most heartfelt blessings. Meanwhile, he is learning 10 new ways to make herbal soup for grandmas. During healing, they ask around about the guardian deity. One villager tells them it's a statue in a nearby temple that Teal worships. When Yuki asks why, the villager shares a story. When Teal was 7, a red fang attacked her, and just when she thought she would die, the deity appeared and saved her. Since then, she has worshipped it. However, the rest of the villagers think the story is nonsense and avoid the creepy temple. By evening, they realize that instead of getting answers, they've become the ones being questioned by the villagers. Yuki grows angry and wants to punish anyone who hurts Siccilia, but she stops him, reminding him she still needs to heal everyone. She then asks if he has any more information, and he tells her what he heard from the villager. She finally understands that the demon never actually attacked the village, but she still wants to speak to him herself. She and Yuki head back to the temple, leaving Shik in charge of Teal. When they arrive, the demon gets angry, assuming they've told the villagers everything. But Siccilia calmly introduces herself. The demon is surprised to learn she is the girl Yuki had spoken about earlier. He explains that he already told Yuki he had no intentions of defending or harming the village. He simply lives there. Suddenly, Yuki throws a weird question at the demon, asking if he's a lolicon. The question stuns both Siccilia and the demon, who shout in confusion, having never heard the word before. Yuki explains that it's from his previous life and not relevant here. Once explained, the demon becomes flustered and denies any interest in little girls, stating firmly that they should stop mentioning Teal's name around him. As they leave, Siccilia quietly asks Yuki if he himself is a lolicon. He quickly replies that his eyes are only for her, then immediately regrets using a confession to dodge a crime, causing her to blush in embarrassment and tell him to stop saying such things. With that, Yuki suggests they go meet Shik and Teal-chan.
Here I am.